Police Staff Association demanding compensation for officers' 12-hour shifts. Meantime, the Bahamas Union of Teachers is calling for the Minister of Education to be fired. We'll tell you why. 2 holiday bills signed into law today.
Even if I am a few days early, happy National Heroes Day.
Plus, the government possibly seeking a new electronic monitoring company. I'm Nikia DeVoe, and this is NB12. Thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. Here are the stories coming out of the NB12 newsroom. As the weeks-long standoff between the Police Staff Association and the executive branch over 12-hour work shifts continues, the association warns it will take legal action if it has to. PSA officials say officers aren't just tired, they're becoming very frustrated because they have not been compensated. To make matters worse, officials say they are deeply disturbed that while the Prime Minister recently met with BUT, another union, the association hasn't been able to secure a meeting with anyone. Vonning Toot reports.
More than a month after police officers here on New Providence were placed on 12-hour shifts, the Police Staff Association is once again demanding that officers be compensated for their hard work. At this point, Executive Chairman Dwight Smith says they're begging for a meeting with Prime Minister Perry Christie as well as the Ministers of Labor and National Security. Failing that, he says they'll take their concerns to court if they have to.
I'm saying to you, the spirit of the officers, if you ask them to work, they will work. But behind that, again, they have family to feed. They have wives to visit. They have children to sit down and talk with. So all of these are still issues. And so, and from a perspective in terms of working the extra hours, every man that works wants to know that he would be compensated. Maybe we may have to take the matter before the courts because it's hours work. Maybe we may have to do that. If that's the way that we have to go, then I think that's the way we got to do it.
Smith says PSA officials were deeply disturbed and very insulted after learning that leaders of the Bahamas Union of Teachers managed to secure a meeting with the Prime Minister and Labor Minister this week to discuss their concerns. He says they were equally shocked to learn how much some teachers make, asserting that police officers' salaries leave a lot to be desired.
We're saying now we don't get paid sufficient. I was amazed when I was reading the article to see what teachers get paid. I said, whoa. So you just put more wood in the fire when you decide to put it extra the hours to additional 4 hours. So you do the math. That's the frustration now.
The PSA feels it does not get the respect it deserves because it is an association, not a union, which prevents it from taking industrial action. That's why Smith is calling on the various trade unions to throw their support behind police officers. He says police want to know once and for all where they stand.
The police watch our tourists. The police keeping our place safe. And if we're saying that please sit around the table, man, tell me no. Come up front with me and tell me no, we're not going to compensate you. Tell me that. Don't tell me that we're doing this for the good of the people.
Smith says he understands some police officers are working 7 days straight, warning it won't be long before they become burnt out. In fact, he says the BSA has already been approached by both doctors and lawyers who've suggested that officers' health could be at risk.
Some officers are working 5, some are working 6. At one point, we went to a particular station, and I didn't see any days off for the police officers. And I would be sad to know that I got that call already that officers work a full 7. And when you do from 1 week to the next, that's ridiculous.
Police hit the streets in greater numbers last month in the face of a dramatic rise in violent crimes. National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage said on Wednesday he is not deaf to calls for overtime pay. However, he did not say when or if police officers would be compensated for working longer hours. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonning Toot.
The president of the Bahamas Union of Teachers is calling on the Prime Minister to either fire Minister of Education Jerome Fitzgerald or have him resign if he doesn't want to work with the union. This after the minister said teachers who participated in sit-outs at Uriah McPhee and Stephen Dillett primary schools last month will have their paychecks docked. Paige McCartney has more details.
The Bahamas Union of Teachers released a statement Thursday criticizing the Minister of Education for using the media to threaten teachers publicly and for issuing more letters of salary cuts. Teachers sat out for a few days at the start of the school year at Stephen Dillett and Uriah McPhee primary schools, claiming they were being forced to work in adverse conditions. The sit-out led to the schools being closed for nearly a week while repairs were carried out. Wilson is of the view that because Fitzgerald is not and has never been an educator, he's not capable of understanding the issues of teachers.
So I believe going forward in this country, we need to look at educators to be ministers of education, because they would have come through the ranks and they would have had the experience of being a classroom teacher or even an administrator or an education officer, which gives them, I think, more of an appreciation for what it is that teachers do and the challenges that we face on a daily basis.
The BUT president said teachers simply want to do their jobs but feel threatened and victimized by the minister, who she says does not want to work with the union.
And all we try to do is to do the best that we can to impart knowledge to our students, and we want to do that in the most safe and healthy and conducive environment. And I must say that at this time it seems like we're having a major challenge with that. And I must say to you, the problem of union access, us being denied on school campuses, that is still an existing problem for us.
In the meantime, the BUT has backed off threats of filing a trade dispute in response to not receiving a counter-proposal from government for its new industrial agreement. Wilson said an impromptu yet productive meeting with Prime Minister Perry Christie and Labor Minister Shane Gibson caused the change of heart, but she said the union is still waiting in good faith for the counter-proposal. The union wants a 12% increase over a 3-year period and a 100% medical coverage for its members. It also wants the starting salary for entry-level teachers to increase from just more than $25,000 to $29,700 annually.
But we are ready to go to the table. We're prepared. We've been prepared. We've been, I would say, actually proactive as a union. We've given them ample time, and it's time for us to get our counter-proposals so that we can continue our negotiations.
The education minister is said to be off the island and could not respond to the BUT's claims. The union's last industrial agreement ended on June 30th. For NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
The Majority Rule Public Holiday Act 2013 and the National Heroes Act 2007 were signed into law this morning during a special ceremony at Government House. It was the first time in the country's history that any bill was signed into law in public. NB12 sat down with the Governor General to talk about the significance of inviting members of the public to witness the historic occasion.
I spoke with Prime Minister Christie some months ago, and we discussed the possibility or the advisability of doing a public signing, which has never been done before, and to emphasize the importance. At the time we talked about the majority rule bill, because I was always an advocate that we should really dramatize this event and get our young people to know, what the importance of it. And as the Prime Minister said today, a lot of people still are not fully appreciative of the significance of that change.
Sir Arthur Folk said the aim of today's event at Government House was to draw attention to the importance of majority rule. January 10th is now officially a public holiday recognizing that pivotal moment in Bahamian history. Sir Arthur said that every year Bahamians will be forced to remember the country's transition from the old Bahamas to a new Bahamas. During this morning's ceremony, Prime Minister Perry Christie called the occasion an important one.
January 10th, 1967 was and shall forever remain one of the truly transformative events, not only in Bahamian history, but in the development of the psyche of the Bahamian people as well. It is important for us to remember, however, that January 10th, 1967 was not an end, nor even a beginning. Rather, it was a step, albeit a major step in a journey that began centuries ago.
The Prime Minister also called for a moment of silence for those men who struggled for freedom and majority rule but have since passed on. The Prime Minister and the Governor General also signed the much-anticipated National Heroes Act into law, which will formally establish National Heroes Day, a public holiday that will be recognized this Monday and thereafter every second Monday in October. It's a move that Father Sebastian Campbell, chairman of the National Heroes Committee, has been pushing for years.
Absolutely awesome. And it's a pity, though, it took 23 years. But thank God, at last, it has happened. But just let me hasten to say as well that over these 23 years, we have been involved in an active campaign every year, consistently, calling Bahamians to celebrate national heroes. And so, in effect, we were celebrating national heroes for some 23 years, just that the government has at last caught up with us.
The Governor General said the renaming of Discovery Day to National Heroes Day and the recognition of Majority Rule Day has been long in coming. Today he spoke to NB12 candidly about why he thinks it took so long.
Some people, as you know, have been advocating, but we've always moved slowly on these things. I don't know why. We Bahamians have been very slow to celebrate and memorialize not just our political history, but our culture and our heritage. And a lot of work is being done now. I guess we were so prosperous and, chasing the tourist dollars that we let these things slide,
In other news, Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez says as far as he's aware, there are no cases of the flesh-eating bacteria that are spreading through Florida here in the Bahamas. Gomez was responding to rumors that a patient at Doctors Hospital is being treated for Vibrio vulnificus, a potentially fatal bacteria that can destroy tissue and shut down organs. At last report, 29 people in Florida were infected. 9 of those people died. But Dr. Gomez says he doesn't believe it is here, and the Ministry of Health is not concerned about the possibility of an outbreak in the Bahamas.
I have heard the rumor myself, but I have had no evidence shown to me that this is true here in the Bahamas.
But Gomez says if by some slim chance someone in the country becomes infected with the flesh-eating bacteria, he is confident that the Bahamas is quite capable of controlling it. Gomez said the Ministry of Health has had to deal with such infections in the past.
I don't think if we take our necessary precautions in day-to-day life, people who get these problems are people you get problems with lacerations of the leg, and you might be so susceptible and have an unusual organism around, but I think the risk is very, very small, very, very small.
Now, according to the Center for Disease Control, Vibrio vulnificus is a bacterium in the same family as those that cause cholera. It normally lives in warm seawater. The bacteria can cause disease in those who eat contaminated seafood or have an open wound that is exposed to seawater.
We have had this sort of thing in the Bahamas over the years, and I could think in my 30-year span at Princess Margaret, there were 2 cases that I know of over the years, flesh-eating organism occurring to so-called flesh-eating, but it's usually strains of streptococci or staphylococci, not Vibrio. Okay? Oh yes, that's early diagnosis and surgery.
People who are immunocompromised, especially those with chronic liver disease, are most at risk for vulnificus when they eat raw seafood.